All right, so we started talking about images and containers in the last lesson, and in this lesson we'll go a little bit deeper into images. So what is an image? An image is just a file comprised of multiple layers used to execute code in a Docker container. And when we think about what we saw in the last lesson, right, this diagram here, this makes sense, right? We remember we talked about like stacking these mini images to comprise this main image. All right, now a great way to learn about images is through the Docker command line interface. So remember, to get to that, you want to go to your terminal. So I just pressed Command Space on my Mac, and then press Return to get to terminal. And let's make this a little bit bigger. And as long as you have Docker running, meaning I'm looking to see that we have this boat icon here and that it's not moving, meaning that Docker has booted up. If it's not running, you can go to Applications in your Finder and then just double click on Docker. But mine is running. So to play around with the command line interface, you can just type in Docker. And then what's nice is at this, you'll see these options things. And then down here, you'll see these management commands. And right here, you can see we have this thing for image, which talks about manage images. So let's type in that. So we'll do Docker image. And this should tell us what we can do with Docker images. So you can see, build an image. We'll talk about that later. These are kind of interesting. The one that we've seen before is Docker pull, right? So for Docker pull, this is how we pull an image from a repository. And remember, we did this with our Ghost image. So let's try that again. Docker pull Ghost. And it looks like I already have Ghost downloaded, but if I didn't, it would download that for me. And then the next thing I like to do is just confirm that it's there. So for this, I would want to probably list all the images on my computer. So it tells us how to do this with the ls command. So for all of these commands, you can see it tells us how to use them. You type in the word Docker, then you type in the next word image, because that's the resource that we're talking about. And then finally, you type in the command. All right, so this is Docker image. We could have done Docker image pull Ghost, but we just did Docker pull for short. But we should do Docker image ls. And that will list our images. So you see that? So this shows us, okay, here's the image that we have, Ghost. The tag is latest. That's essentially like the version. This is when we created it, the size. This image ID is, this is another way to refer to the image is through the ID. Now that we see that we have Ghost downloaded on our computer, the next thing we should probably do is just learn a little bit more about it. So this says display detailed information on one or more images. So that's inspect. So let's take a look at that. So remember, the pattern is Docker followed by image, because that's the resource, followed by inspect. And then we'll probably talk specifically about this image. So that would be Ghost. Okay, let's kind of make this bigger. So here's the first thing I guess we see at the bottom is this layers thing. And that is just reinforcing this idea that this image Ghost is really comprised of multiple layers. And these are those image IDs of each of those layers. There's also other key information that we'll learn about later. So for instance, command, this is how it kicks off and boots up the Ghost website is by running node current index.js. You can see here's environmental variables set in our image. So just like if you imagine downloading Ghost, we might have had to set certain environmental variables. It seems like that's something this image has already done. Here again is that command. So, as we learn more about Docker, we'll begin to understand this a little bit better, but this is a good way to get to know what's involved in that image. Another way, let's type in Docker image again and see what else we have. So another way is this history thing. So do Docker image again, history, and then we'll type in the name of that image, which remember is Ghost. And you can see here's another kind of representation of those stackable layers. So remember, it's just, this is our file. I guess it's starting with this file. And then we're adding this command for bash, and on and on and on. Each one of these is another essentially layer in the image, right? Until finally we get to the last step, which is to boot up the website. So again, this is now showing you, I guess, a more detailed view, probably more understandable view of those layers in an image. Okay, so let's type in Docker image again. And we've now gone through a good amount of these, right? So we've gone through pull to pull down an image. We've then gone through Docker image ls to list all of our images. We've gone through Docker inspect to display that kind of detailed information. And we looked at history. The one other one that we should probably talk about is remove. So remember, we have this Docker image ls, and we see that we have ghost. If we want to remove it, we'll do Docker image rm followed by the name of the image. Okay? So let's do that. And so we'll just press return here. And okay, so it says unable to remove because we have a container, I guess, somewhere on my computer that's still running Ghost. So if I want to kind of force remove it, and it tells us conflict unable to remove it. If I want to force remove it, I'll just do -F. And now it's deleted the image. So I tried to do it normally, Docker image rm ghost. It looks like I had some sort of conflict. So if I'm like, hey, get this off my computer, it's taking up too much space, I just put the -F flag here. And now if I do Docker image ls, you can see that all the images are gone. So that's it for images. We'll move on to containers in the next lesson, but you can see that we talked about history for looking more into an image, same thing with inspect, ls for listing all of our images, remove for removing an image, and of course that Docker, we could have done Docker image pull ghost for pulling down an image as well. All right, cool. So in the next lesson, we'll talk about containers.